Okay, let's get right into this video because it's very, very important. And why it's relevant is something you should understand from a very simple and direct standpoint. This is a video that basically explains essentially where President Biden was at the very, very first moments of being sworn in as President of the United States. What I have here is Executive Order, specifically 13985, which is the Executive Order on advancing racial equity and support for the underserved communities throughout the federal government. You have to understand that this was a maneuver on the literal first day of him becoming president of the United States, January 20th, 2021. It was then written later on April 14th, 2022, with the new acting commissioner, Kilolo Kijikazi, of the Social Security Administration, with specifically an action plan written by her to explain essentially what was going on. I can't get it there because of the microphone, but bottom line is she wrote a plan. What you need to understand is that this was a very smart move for Biden's team because it sent a very strong and clear message specifically to minorities that they were going to have preferential treatment for government jobs and government placement and government assistance with the private market of available jobs for in the future successfully obtaining jobs over potentially other individuals and having a more positive effect going forward. Now, with that said, you should understand that there is a lot of turmoil in the current political structure because we are literally months away from the voting of a new president. We are a month away from knowing what the new COLA is going to be, the cost of living adjustment. We are seeing minorities who are looking at this scenario and asking themselves, have they been on the right path for an extended period? Do they want to stay on this path going forward? And some are saying yes, some are saying no. I'm going to read this to you very quickly. This is essentially what the statement from the SSA is, and then we're going to go directly to the executive order because that will help you understand what was going on the very night that President Biden was made president of these United States. Social Security's Equity Action Plan by Kilolo Kijikazi, April 14th, 2022. On January 20th, 2021, President Biden signed Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. The EO requires all federal agencies to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and other people who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequity. So, point is, this is not something that's really going to be helping out white people, obviously. When you read through it, it's about creating equity, but the main functional push is for Native groups, Native Americans, Native Islanders, and minorities. That's what the main push of these things are. Of course, the underlying theme is equity, but let's just be realistic about that. That's not going to be including, Caucasians in this bout, right? It's just not something going to be promoted in that. Our programs touch the lives of nearly every American, including people who face barriers, providing income security for the diverse populations we serve. This includes people with disabilities, people who are widowed. We are committed to continue to administer our programs in a way that promotes equity and treating all individuals who interact with us with fairness. We recognize that access to our administrative system can pose barriers to people who need our programs the most. To reduce these barriers and ensure everyone has access to our services, our Equity Action Plan includes, number one, increasing collection of race and ethnicity data to help understand whether our programs are equitably serving our applicants and beneficiaries. Now, interesting thing about that is that back in the day, they actually collected racial statistical information, and then they stopped doing that. And the rumor that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but it's the rumor I've heard. I gotta give you a little disclaimer here. I don't know if it's true. The rumor I heard was that they wanted to get away from racial tendency review statistics with the SSA, and now because it was just considered a negative at that time when they stopped doing it, and now they're getting back to it because they're not able to have that data to figure out how people are doing. Now, obviously, African Americans, for example, usually earn less retirement because they have lower earning jobs throughout their life. And then, of course, those who tend to benefit the most from, benefits for the longest period of time, retirement benefits, are women because they obviously live longer, consistently, significantly longer. So there's a lot of interesting data that we can harvest about the different races and individuals within the benefit receiving of the Social Security Administration. Number two, revising our policies and practices to expand options for service delivery. Very crucial. We just found out, and I did a video on it, they're finally going to be converting the SSI 8000 PK application so that people can file for SSI benefits online, should be available by December of this year. They've been promising me that for 10 years now, but bottom line is they're finally going to do it. Number 3, ensuring equitable access for unrepresented claimants in the disability application process. The bottom line is disability application is a bitch. It's not fun. It's not easy. And most people don't know what's going to actually happen. So pretty much most people get an attorney because they've now done the science and study of it. It turns out that you actually, increase your chances. I think it's like 3 times more, like, I forget exactly what I think it was, like 3 times more likely to be found disabled if you're represented by an attorney. There's a lot of reasons to that. The attorneys pick better claims. The attorneys know which claims are more likely to go through. The attorneys prep and fix things that can sometimes kill the claim, right? That happens a lot. That claim would have gone through but for the claimant doing this, but for them fixing this, alleged onset date, whatever. So that's an interesting one. Decreasing burdens for people who identify as gender diverse or transgender in the Social Security number card application process. So that's where you started to see the SSA hard lean into, what are you? Are you a he, him? Are you a they, something else? Are you a, she, this, or some varied option of that? And they started to do a lot of meetings where they'd always introduce themselves as to what their representation was. And, this is during a part where everybody was like, okay, here we go. We're going through this phase. We're figuring out what this is going to be. We're seeing how people interact with it. Next one, increasing access to our research grant programs for historically Black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions, and to the procurement opportunities for small and disadvantaged businesses. Okay, so there is a lust among Americans for some reason to believe definitively that African Americans are always, last when it comes to academia, last when it comes to vocational achievements, last when it comes to this, last when it comes to that they were basically the only solidarity, group that went through slavery, things like that. All at this point wrong, right? If you take a moment, and this is why the political thing right now is so hopping and aggressive, and people are deep-seated on it. And you see a lot of, and the ironic thing is, you see a lot of Black males going one way with voting and Black females going another way with voting. So there's like this breakup that's going in between, basically that system there. So what's interesting is that if you think about it for just a moment, if you think about which group in America is most likely to have the most money, the most advantage, the most, capability of lifting up other people up, like helping their communities, right? It would probably be celebrities. Like maybe it'd be financial institution people, but not really. The most wealthy, rich, have stuff people are celebrities. And if you look at TV, right? If you look at TV and you look at all the different channels, right? All the different channels, all the different movies, all the different stuff, de facto, that the most celebrities that exist in America are Black. There's no question about it. Here's why. Every channel has some variation of it, unless it's like a, channel that's only showing shows from the 1920s or 30s, etc. But when you get to the sports channels or the news channels talking about sports, each one of those players is a celebrity. No doubt about it. They're on national TV, right? They're making big money, right? Maybe not LeBron money, maybe not, Michael Jordan money, right? Maybe not that big, obviously, because that's mega money, but they're making big money. Okay. There are more Black celebrities on TV and in general in America as a result of the sports industry than any other group by far. If you're like, okay, well, if there are more Black celebrities or Asian celebrities, well, obviously Black. Are there more, Latino celebrities or Black celebrities? Obviously Black, right? The only questionable one you get to is, are there more white celebrities or Black celebrities? And then when you get to the sports teams, you're like, easy answer. Very easy answer. Obviously, there are more Black celebrities. So then the question becomes, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, how did this happen? You go back to my history. My people have been slaves literally for thousands of years, going back to earlier than the Egyptians. We've just historically not done well. I mean, it's a very sad, tragic. I mean, my family is the result of basically having to move out of Europe as refugees and asylum seekers as a result of what was going on in Europe before World War II really became known in America for what it is today. So the point here is, just so you guys understand, this situation is that there are interesting things going on because you have across all groups, poverty, of course, the most poor people in this country are the most people that are available, which are, of course, the white poverty people. So you have to then sit back and say, where did these groups that have the money, have the capacity, have the et cetera, go wrong, right? Where did, and see, I see some comments here. So basically what you're saying is you're against reparation. I am completely against reparations. 100% reparations are the absolute worst thing we could do. We have been doing reparations through SSI. We have been doing reparations through county programs, state programs, federal programs. We've been doing reparations through special housing programs, special loan programs, special academia programs. It's the worst thing we can do at this point because we have to focus not on race, but on poverty. And for some reason, there is a lust in America for saying one particular group or two particular groups or three particular groups have to always have some advantage given to them. They have to have some equity included to them. They have to have some push. Now, I ask you this one difficult question. It is a very difficult question. I hope you guys can answer it. Okay. And it's going to be answers all over the place. The question is, all right, the question is, and it's very, very straightforward one. Do you feel that these programs have changed the culture of America? I think they have. I think that they move things forward in a positive way to some degree. There have been things that were obviously not good, but I think that they've moved people forward towards any potential aggression that they might have towards some other group being more open. There's always going to be racism, always going to be there. It's never going to stop. But if we're honest with each other about this, politicians care about one thing, and that is not fixing America. They couldn't give a shit about that. That is low on their priority list, not even on the spectrum. Nope, not even there. They care about getting your vote for the next election because your vote keeps their party going in the right direction. The Democrats are so smart about this because they go ahead and shoot for all of the minority groups, whether they're disabled or they're a particular color or a particular, cultural origin or geographic origin or of a particular industry that feels like it's being crushed. They're great at it. They're so smart when it comes to that. The Republicans, however, rely heavily on the big pre-established groups, right? Your classic Christian group, right? Your classic retired group, your classic this group, financial responsibility people, right? Everybody getting together on Sunday night to have a nice meal at the oak table, stuff like that. Now, I want to point out, this was written by the Social Security Administration, and I did a video on it because I thought it was interesting. And they released their statistical detailed information. They had, at that time that they were promoting, not really getting it rolled up, not really getting it kicked off. They had, at the time before they even used this program, more minorities working at the SSA than the percentage of people per group in America. They were already a stellar example of more minorities working for a government agency than whites. They didn't have enough whites. It was ironic. If they had to actually shoot for what they wanted with this program, which was diversity, equity, inclusion, which is having a percentage that's equivalent, right, across the board of how many people are available. In that sense, they had already gone beyond that. They had more, minorities working at their particular agency than there were, and that was a funny bit. The video was hilarious because I said they've already achieved this. They already have what this program is supposed to be doing. Now, here's what is interesting about it. When he released this, and it was a brilliant move, and literally, it was on the day he became president. Look up specifically this date, January 20th, 2021. The day he became president, he got out the pen and he said, I am going to legislate. I am going to give an executive order to push individuals to like me because I'm trying to give them more. And if you look at Rome, right, and you look at the mob, and how do you get the mob on your side? Well, you have two ways. You can either give them something or you can potentially distract them. Those are like the two main ways to get the mob on your side, right? That's how you get more votes. And you call the mob whatever you want it to be. You could call it the group. You could call it the Universal American Committee. You could call it this particular underprivileged area, this particular underserved group, whatever it was. Now, there are groups that truly, truly do not have a fair shot at getting their Social Security benefits, right? Islanders. They've done a lot, especially under Commissioner Kijikazi, to assist those individuals that were in these unique Native American, Native Islander groups where they just weren't getting the benefits available to them because of application process issues, following up issues, etc., that they were supposed to be able to. Now, on another side, if you go look at the statistics of how many Hawaiians are on SSI and SSDI benefits, it's astounding. If you go look at the statistics for how many Native Americans are on, basically, different groups are on SSI and SSDI benefits, it's astounding. Significant, massive numbers of these individuals, high percentages. So then we got to question, well, wait a minute, how did this happen? Now, there are certain islands, right, that are possessions of the United States where the SSA had to do a better job of getting out there, had to do a better job of helping those people. Absolutely. Tammy West, thank you for the $5 donation. I super appreciate that. That's awesome. That's super amazing. So the point here is Americans have this odd lust with believing certain pre-diagnosed conditions of minorities. And this is, I think, the first election where minorities are taking control of that and redefining what their actual belief is going forward. I think that's incredible. Think about it. I have never seen the African American population control the narrative of what they want to say like in this election. I've never seen it like that. It's always been basically Democrats giving the direction and then African Americans kind of follow the leader kind of gig. I've never seen, and it's both African Americans voting Democrat and Republican, so many of those individuals actually promoting the idea of what they want heard, what they want believed. And social media is incredible for that. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, if you want, whatever. The point is, it gives people the opportunity to explain what they feel and what they believe. This chair's going to break on me. But the point is, I think this is incredibly important. Going forward, I think the interesting thing is, if they release something like this today, an executive order, like if Harris, right, VP Harris to potentially be President Harris, released an executive order like this, or the idea of it going forward, I don't think would be as effective for getting as many votes. I don't. And the amazing thing that I think is incredibly important about the future of minorities in this country is that they're not taking shit anymore. They're not pushing this agenda that they need this, that they got to have that. They're pushing the agenda that basically they're capable. They want to work hard, achieve the American dream. They want to have all the amazing things that are out there. They want their family to be safe. They want their family to be taken care of. They want amazing vacations. They want to take their children outside of the United States to see places and experience amazing cultures and foods and all kinds of stuff. It's what America is supposed to be, taking everybody, all the groups, and lifting them up. And what's interesting is that this may be something that right now we need, but we are evolving away from it as a culture. I'm going to read it to you right now. That way you can kind of understand it. But keep all this in mind. The idea of different groups trying to obtain different things or saying, no, thank you, I got this. And that's important because a lot of people are standing back and saying, no, thank you, I'll do this myself. No, thank you, I can handle this myself. I respect myself and my capacity to achieve this. That doesn't mean that there still aren't poor individuals in different groups. Just remember, we have to do less about race specification and more about poverty specificity. Okay, you go into any poor group, there's mixed groups of every person there. Every color skin has a potential being there. Above all are disabled people, above all are disabled children. The reason why disabled people and disabled children are a special legal class of individuals is because society, I'm going to say something that some of you are going to hate. I'm going to say something that some of you are going to hate, but just hang in there with me a little bit here. Okay, just hang in there with me. The reason why the government, you guys are going to be angry with me about this. The reason the government goes ahead and pays disability benefits, 1950s, and SSI benefits, Nixon, 1970s, is not to make you feel like the government loves you. That's part of some cute little equation. That's not the real reason. The real reason it does it, and when I say this, please just take it in, just absorb it, because when you absorb it and you realize that this is the reality, it will make a lot more stuff make sense. The reason it pays out disability benefits, the reason it pays out supplemental security income benefits, is to keep those who are unable to work away from keeping them from not slowing down those who are working. It is to unburden the working class so that those who can't work can exist aside from the economy to still buy things from it, but not require the assistance and upkeep of the working class. I know that some of you are going to fight me on that. You're saying, no, it's because the government loves me. It's because the government wants to give me hugs and kisses. And because I'm disabled, they want to give me money that I already paid for. I know, but just, and it's going to, it's like taking a bullet to the head. It's really tough. But the reason the government pays you a disability check or an SSI check is to keep you away from the working class so that the working class can be more productive and effective and efficient. And I know I know when you hear that, you're like, ew, oh no, the government loves me. Of course they wouldn't do that. It's the way it works. It's the reason they have it. And when you understand that, everything that happens thereafter will make more sense. And that's the best way you can tell if something's truthful. If you understand something, if you have something in your head, and then all of a sudden things start to make, reality make a little bit more sense, then at that point you realize you have a truth because things are flowing with it in a proper way. I see Marcus Harrison said, interesting theory. It's think about it. All right, let me give you one more other part. Then we're going to read this one other part. Women have statistically, historically been screwed over by the system that we have because they've had to take care of elderly parents more so than the male children, which has reduced their ability to go ahead and essentially continue to work and earn more money and get more retirement benefits. Right? So women have historically taken care of the parents that are elderly more so than the men, the male children, right? So the male children sometimes they do, but usually don't, as a comparison factor, statistical factor, don't take care of the elderly parents when they're not able to work. They're not able to do things as much as the female children. What happens to the female children? They can't continue to work and push forward their careers as a result of having to take care of these elderly parents. What happens to their benefits? It reduces their Social Security disability insurance. It reduces their retirement. It reduces these things because they're not paying more taxes into the future. Oh, Kimberly, member of 5 months. I super appreciate that. That's amazing. What is Space Constitution? That is something I wanted to work on and do amazing stuff with. I just haven't had time. I built a website to create a foundation for people to donate ideas to future constitutions that could be used for people who want to live on planets and, living in capsules out in space. And so that they could use these template constitutions going into the future as something that, would be a foundation for founding some sort of future group, nation, whatever, so that we're not just reliant on rich people who are able to put people in space, making them sign contracts. It was the thing I wanted to do, but unfortunately, there's not enough time. I just don't make enough money as a disability attorney to also have the time to hire enough people to also do the other thing. So, point is, with this situation, and I want you to understand this, okay? Point is with this situation, they pay you your benefits to keep you, for SSI and SSDI, away from the working class so that the working class can continue to go ahead and basically produce income, produce taxes that the government can borrow against, spend, and buy military equipment with. It's not a popular idea, but it is the reality. It is the rule of why it exists. Thank you, Kimberly, for the sweetie $2 donation. Super appreciate that. She's actually right over there. She's asleep. She's on a couple medications right now because we got to calm her down so she doesn't rip any of the sutures, any of the stuff in her body. She's got some big surgery scar here, big surgery scar here, although it'll heal up. It's just, it's where it is right now. And then, of course, one right here as well. I had to remove 4 spots. So, all right, now we're going to go to essentially the executive order. I know some of you guys feel that some of that commentary was new or scary or terrible or, oh my goodness, how could you think that? But again, if you just think about it, there are literally, when you look at the spectrum of celebrities that are out there, think about it. Think about the music industry. Okay. Think about the sports of basketball. And what are the top sports? Let's look it up. What are the top sports? Top sports, right? Top sports in America on TV. Let's see. Let's get a list here real quick. American football, basketball, baseball, ice hockey, soccer, tennis. Okay. Golf, motorsports, wrestling. Everybody knows football is king. Football is king. Basketball, second. Baseball, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, it's definitely not lacrosse. Wrestling, that's an interesting one. Tennis, that's kind of like comes on, comes off sometimes. Golf, you pretty much have to buy, a special channel just to even get that stuff. Bottom line is this, though: football is everywhere. Football is everywhere, no doubt about it. Basketball is everywhere. The amount of people on TV that are the specific players that are African American, that is the highest amount of celebrities that exists. Because you get an entire football team and all the players lined up, you got a chunk of celebrities every single game. The highest amount of celebrities on TV are African American. But yet, it is constantly sold that because of that skin color, they need special help, which is interesting because now African Americans are saying, whoa, 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 we got this. And that is an amazing and proud thing right there, because that's promoting the idea that the group doesn't need special attention. Now, the disabled will always need special attention, no matter what color their skin is. They are a legal, special class of individuals. They can't work, so we have to protect them. But again, the thing that some of you will feel a little angry about is that the reason they have these benefits are to keep you from slowing down the working class. I know it's a mean thought. I know it's a terrible thought, but it is the reality. If you just think about it a little bit, if you just go with it, it's the truth of it. It's the reality of it. And I know it's not fun or friendly, but it's the reality, because the government cares about some basic things: votes for their party, you making enough money that they can borrow against it to command and control other nations through their military, borrowing against the money that we create, and then basically allowing them to innovate whatever future they want to that controls us, so that we have to constantly keep making more money to feed the monkey being the US Treasury. All right, here is the executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities throughout the federal government, released and penned on the night, well, kind of the day/night of President Biden becoming president of the United States. A very brilliant move on his part, a really brilliant move to get significant votes going into the 2020 election to 2021, swear-in / sitting in the Oval Office situation. Here we go. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1 policy. Equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy. A good opening, a very good opening. And our diversity is one of our country's greatest strengths, but for too many, the American dream remains out of reach. That actually goes to the identity of what was being used by Martin Luther King during his speeches. So to be fair, this is pulling from specific type of phrasing that was used back in the day. Let's keep reading. Entrenched disparities in our laws and public policies and in our public and private institutions have often denied that equal opportunity to individuals and communities. No doubt about it. There's a history of it. No doubt about it. Absolutely true. And you ever think about that? You wonder why there's like a Chinatown, wonder why certain industries are filled to certain groups, why this particular industry has mostly Jewish people of faith in it, why this industry has mostly, Muslim people of faith, why this industry has mostly Indian people or Asian people or whatever. It's because of these entrenched disparities and people going to protective industry zones where they would all get together and do their thing. And they would do their thing as a community. Because you got to remember, when I was growing up, right, I was told not to tell people, essentially, of my mom's Jewish background, my Jewish background. You didn't talk about it because there were problems with that. We were in a country area, and the country folk did not like Jewish people. They had a lot of thoughts about them, So the bottom line is, we always just, we didn't talk about it with other people in the area. And the area also had some growing up to do, which, to be fair, it still has some growing up to do. But Our country faces converging economic, health, and climate crises that have exposed and exacerbated inequities, while historic movement for justice has highlighted the unbearable human cost of systemic racism. Our nation deserves an ambitious whole of government equity agenda that matches the scale of the opportunities and challenges that we face. Now, with that said, this is a tricky thing because President Biden is basically saying we are going to take away what America is, which is a free economy, and we are going to manipulate the economy to promote and boost people that we deem who are essentially underserved community. Okay, and then obviously my feeling is that underserved communities should be poor, should be based on basically individuals that are economic. Because remember, again, you go back, you look at the celebrities on TV. There's a ton of celebrities on TV, and you got to ask yourself, where are they when it comes to when I see Oprah get up there and she's begging for money for some group, I'm always like, dude, come on now, like that is ridiculous, unfair, obnoxious, and obscene. She is ultra rich, and she is super, super, super capable of donating massive amounts to fix any problem. She is capable of that. And I think that the problem inherent with that, and don't get me wrong, her production crew, and I study media stuff and how they do stuff, her production crew is incredible. Her stories, incredible. How she would donate to her audience members, incredible. Okay, incredible. In fact, Taylor Swift learned from her. Taylor Swift learned a lot of the tricks that she did from Oprah. Oprah innovated that stuff. But she shouldn't be the one begging for money for some group. I don't think that sends the right message. Ken Act of Kindness, thank you for the $2 donation. That's awesome. Happy Labor Day. Yeah, and indeed, guys, happy Labor Day. It's a obviously we're working quasi right now, but happy Labor Day. Your efforts here, thank you. I super appreciate it. That's awesome. So yeah, you're right. Mayor says she's oppressed though. Nobody thinks Oprah is oppressed. She was the queen of capitalism. There's no doubt about it. She was a miracle of hard work, getting lucky, breaking barriers, kicking ass, and frankly, to be fair, I think it's a fair. I mean, hold on. Let's look at what she's worth. Let's look at what is Oprah worth today. What is Oprah worth today? Right, just a quick look up. Nothing. $3 billion. $3 billion. Tyler Perry, $1.4 billion. Bill Gates, $138 billion. Okay. So the guy who invented a main section of computing, $138 billion. Sure. Okay. Massive industry, but just a TV personality with some offshoots of that, cookingware to this, to that, to whatever, books, $3 billion. So then it calls into question again, how, you know what I mean? Is this a skin color thing? I think to some degree there still is that. But is it the same way it was 15 years ago? I think this would have been way more appropriate 15 years ago. I think Obama should have done a lot more with this. But again, different times, not going to judge. It is what it is, All right, let's keep reading here. Our nation deserves an ambitious whole of government equity agenda that matches the scale of the opportunities and challenges that we face. So he's removing us from classic capitalism and going into basically social experiments of controlling who does what jobs. Cool. It is therefore the policy of my administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality, affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of our government, because advancing equity requires a systematic approach to embedding fairness in decision-making processes. Executive departments and agencies must recognize the work to redress inequities in their policy and programs that serve as barriers to equal opportunity. That's true. If they can go through their policies, their procedures, and find stuff that is unfair towards a Native Islander, a Native American, or another underprivileged group, or perhaps even a disabled person that is underprivileged as a result of their impairment, not having proper assessment as to what's required to be found disabled. Something might be way worse, and they give it a moderate as opposed to a severe, medical diagnostic impression within the SSA as a result of their policies for treating the severity of a medical impairment. Absolutely. They should be reviewing their policies, no doubt about it. By advancing equity across the federal government, we can create opportunities for the improvement of communities that have been historically underserved, which benefits everyone. For example, analysis shows that closing racial gaps in wages, housing, credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in gross domestic product in the American economy over the next 5 years. No doubt that there are certain groups, certain parts of the country, certain towns where a particular group, could be a skin color, could be a religion, is not doing well. But still, we shouldn't be going at this based off of race. I think that that's a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible idea. We should be going at this based off of poverty. Because when you make it all about race, you basically say to that group, you couldn't do it. Why couldn't you do it? Oh, you were underserved. Well, you were underserved, da, 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 da. But at the heart of it, what you're really saying is your culture was not capable of achieving whatever everybody else did, right? So they say, well, this Latino culture couldn't achieve what this Asian culture did. Oh, and that's not good, because that creates hatred, and that is inherent in this. I think we need to make this about poverty. We need to make this about education capabilities, because we know everybody, right, is born in a different spot mentally. Some people have incredibly high IQs, right? Einstein is extremely high. We're all very low in the mental capacity arena compared to the brilliance of Einstein, the brilliance of some of these mathematicians out there who can do these incredible leaps with their mind. Super chess play. We're all not even close to that. As a comparison, if I were to do a gift to the world, like if I were to give a gift to every American, right, I would give the gift of 30 points increase, boost on the intellectual quotient. I would do that. You know why? Because most problems in America would be solved just by increasing everybody's IQ by 30 points. It would be incredible. It would be absolutely amazing. Now, with that said, certain areas, bad academia. If you don't give them good academia, if you don't give them good schooling, you're not going to end up with superstars that can go on and continue to be superstars unless they are plucked at some point from that academia and put into some other program. No doubt about it. Ken Kozak, thank you for the $25 donation. That's awesome. They put a little heart on there. He said, most don't know, but the law firm is suffering from a bad case of slow pay, and Walter is still here helping us out. Appreciate Walter. And that's true. That's true. The law firm basically has been getting ridiculously slow payments from the SSA local field offices and SSDI payment divisions. It has been horrible. The YouTube channel actually had to subsidize the law firm for a couple of months. And it's just been amazing that this is going on. Now, do I think that this is, one of those situations where they don't have enough employees, they're facing problems, they're not able to process things quickly enough? Yeah. They haven't released their most current, how many employees they currently have numbers for the right now moment. I'm going to do a video on what they have released. There's a problem at the SSA. The thing is, I have a crush on Martin O'Malley. I think he's doing an amazing job. I think our senators and our House reps and our president have done a shit job with supporting the SSA. And the reason why they've done a crap job with supporting the SSA is because they don't fund people to work there with a proper livable wage. Think about that. Who's going to work for the government if they're going to make a very tiny amount? Nobody. Nobody's going to do that. You got to learn a bunch of stuff. You're constantly being reviewed. Somebody's looking over you all the time. Somebody wants to know what's going on. They're going to, potentially give you a point off because you didn't do something right. Very difficult job. Very difficult job. Very low pay. It's not fair. They need more pay. Congress, pay your employees a proper livable wage. You are turning them into the people who literally have to go ahead and be on this no matter what they are or where they came from. That's the reality. All right. So here's the deal. Section 2. Okay. So the federal government's goal in advancing equity is to provide everyone with the opportunity to reach their full potential. Consistent with these aims, each agency must assess whether and to what extent its programs and policies perpetuate systemic barriers to opportunities, and the benefit for people of color and other underserved groups, such as assessments, will better equip agencies to develop policies and programs that deliver resources and benefits equitably to all. Well, not really equitably to all. You're just boosting other people. And of course, like I said, the whole pushing this people of color thing, it really just hurts them from a cultural standpoint, because it just says to them, hey, you couldn't as a group do it. And that's terrible. But remember, they do this because they want votes. The more votes they get, the better they're doing, the more they get voted in. Does it ultimately push money towards poor people? Yeah, it does. So it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing. Are they going about it the wrong way? 100%, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Is it a shitty way to solve a problem? It's a roundabout way to solve a problem. The government's never been great at figuring out exactly what to do and then, having a military attack point where they're going to get the exact thing done at the exact right time. Everybody knows that when you have the potential of doing something right, the federal government will find 8 ways to do it wrong before magically the American people fix it. That's just the reality. Section 2 definitions. For the purposes of this order, the term equity means the consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Black, Latino, and Indigenous and Native American persons, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, and other persons of color, members of religious minorities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, LGBTQ plus persons, persons with disabilities, persons who live in rural areas, and persons otherwise adversely affected by persistent poverty or inequality. You could have literally just put down persons adversely affected by persistent poverty or inequality. You didn't have to put down every shade under the rainbow, because all you're doing is saying this group, that group, this group, that group, this group, that group couldn't achieve it on their own. It's not good. It's a very negative thing. It actually hurts the population that's trying to achieve better. All right. So, and that's the thing too. You look at this, you look at what they're kind of promoting here. They're pointing out the groups that are less likely to have more. Although I will say this, the LGBTQ community has done very well over the past 10 years, financially, structurally, buying businesses, running businesses. They've done very well. However, I have noticed, because I have a lot of friends that are in that field, they have not been supportive of the employees as much with paying them a good wage. I have noticed some of that. That hasn't been helpful. All right, let's keep running through this. The term underserved communities refers to the population sharing a particular characteristic as well as geographic community that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life, as exemplified by the list in the preceding definition of equity. That I like. The term underserved community, let me go through that again, refers to population sharing a particular characteristic. I don't like how they go with race. I don't like how they're like, well, everybody that is potentially brown. I don't like that. That to me is just offending, anybody with brown skin to say you could have done better, you should have done better. You're not, so we got to help you out. Okay. That I don't like. But a particular characteristic, they're all poor, 100% on board, 100% on board. As well as geographic community, which is what it should be based on, right? Poor area, poor people, geographic community, they're all poor here. That's what we should be focusing on. That has been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life, as exemplified by the list in the preceding definition of equity. Ironically, all this stuff they're doing is for votes, but now that jobs are digital and most people can afford a laptop, or most companies will send a laptop to a potential employee, that is going to fix a lot of what this group is trying to do. Right? I mean, sure, they're trying to get votes. That's part of the gig, but it's going to fix. The natural market is going to want to hire more people. And if they can hire somebody for cheaper in this area, they're going to do that. And then that person can work their way up, achieve more, etc. Not to say, though, a lot of these big corporations, you can never really work your way up. America's got to work on that a bit, too. Next one, Section 3, role of the Domestic Policy Council. The role of the White House Domestic Policy Council, DPC, is to coordinate the formulation and implementation of my administration's domestic policy objectives. Consistent with this role, the DPC will coordinate efforts to embed equity principle policies and approaches across the federal government. This will include efforts to remove systematic barriers to and provide equal access to opportunities and benefits, identify communities the federal government has underserved, and develop policies designed to advance equity for those communities. The DPC-led interagency process will ensure that these efforts are made in coordination with the directors of the National Security Council and the National Economic Council. I, to be fair, will likely never have a job with the federal government or a state government or county government because, to be fair, Like, let's say I became an administrative law judge, right? Obviously, the video we just did before this, I was talking about administrative law judge questions, what to watch out for, etc. Let's say that I had that job. I know that as a result of this, I would be denied promotions. I could work very hard. I could achieve amazing things. I could rewrite things that they need rewritten. But I know, bottom line, that I would never get the promotions I was supposed to get because of this. So you're not going to see me going and applying in the future for federal jobs. It's just not going to happen. And not to mention, they're not so great with paying things on time. That is something they need to work on. Section 4, identifying methods to assess equity. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, shall, in partnership with the heads of agencies, study methods for assessing whether agency policies and actions create or exacerbate barriers to full and equal participation by all eligible individuals. The study should aim to identify the best methods consistent with applicable law to assist agencies in assessing equity with respect to race, ethnicity, religion, income, geography, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability. Absolutely agree with it. Send people out there to assess it. Send people out there to create reports. Then let the American people, then let these individuals, these Democrat House reps, these Republican House reps, these Democrat senators, these House rep senators, the independent individuals, then let them tear it apart so that we can create something better off of it. Next one, Part B. As part of this study, the Director of OMB shall consider whether to recommend that agencies employ pilot programs to test model assessments, tools, and assist agencies in doing so. 100% support. Pilot programs, prototypes, absolutely support it. C, within 6 months of the date of this order, the Director of OMB shall deliver a report to the President describing the best practices identified by the study and, as appropriate, recommending approaches to expand use of those methods across the federal government. I support it, but 6 months is not enough time to get it right. You need at least 12 months for all the academia groups, all the actual real practicing people in the real fields to give commentary on it. You need 12 months. 6 months is not enough time. Section 5, conducting an equity assessment in federal agencies. The head of each agency or designee shall, in consultation with the Director of OMB, select certain of the agency programs and policies for review that will assess whether underserved communities and their members face systematic barriers in accessing benefits and opportunities available pursuant to those policies and programs. The head of each agency or designee shall conduct such review and within 200 days of the date of this order provide a report to the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy reflecting findings on the following. They go through, and I'm going to go through them real quick with you, but the idea here is this. This is all good. We want to plan. We want to see what they come up with. However, it's a slippery slope because ultimately they could be promoting and creating inequity. They could be promoting and screwing up improper diversity, improper amounts of equity, right? They could be, going ahead and imbalancing the whole thing, which is always going to happen no matter what. When you start to figure out one thing, you're boosting one thing, they never get it right because you boost this group, right? This group, and then poof, all of a sudden they're here and then everybody else is here, which, to be fair, we kind of have that. We now have, well, everybody's poor now, but what we have now, to be fair with this whole thing, is a very scary thing. The middle class, the white middle class group that we had, they don't have savings anymore. They're not making enough to afford things. Their credit card debt is astronomical. So the point that I get at with that, and I think it's important, is that the backbone that paid for the rich and the poor were the middle class whites, and they are poor now, and they are not earning enough. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I know that when you make everybody poor, you basically are on the steps to a less, and I'm for Social Security, which is a socialist program. I'm for it because people are shitty at saving for crap situations or just getting old. People suck at saving. Like you could literally make that if you wanted to put that on the Social Security t-shirt, people suck at saving, Social Security benefits. That could literally be the logo right there. You know what I mean? It's not, look, it is what it is. But with that said, keep this in mind, and this is incredibly important. As a result of everybody now being poor, I think if you go back to the most famous speech of Martin Luther King. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. It's my favorite one. Hold on. Well, it's not my most favorite one. It's just the one that I like to go to. All right, hold on. Let me bring it up real quick. Transcript. Here we go. NPR. They got the transcript here. Where is it? They got advertisements on. Oh my God. Advertisements everywhere. All right, hold on. Let me find this. 100 years later, blah, 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 100 years later. Okay, got it. Hold on, I got to find the specific spot that's so good. Okay, here it is. And this is from the I Have a Dream speech. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. Like heir, we inherited it. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Black American people a bad check, which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. Oh, such a good line. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hollowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. And this is where he was thinking ahead. This is where his brilliance came in. I know people like the black kids and white kids playing together, but okay, fine. That's the famous part of it. But this is the brilliant part. Okay. We have also come to this hollowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Black Americans' legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equity and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who have that Black America needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Black American is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there's something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold, which leads into the palace of justice. The palace of justice. That's so interesting. Like that terminology, you don't hear that, In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Black American community, must now lead us to the distrust of the white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And this is the important part. This is because what he's doing now is he's framing the reality that white people are going to be betrayed by their government and made poor and suffer like Black people are. And that's exactly where we're at right now. Because now that white middle class, they're all poor. You didn't think it did happen. That's where we're at right now. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone as we walk. We must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Black American is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. Because remember, back in the day, that's how it was. That's how it was. Like they needed this back in the day, We cannot be satisfied as long as the Black American in Mississippi cannot vote, Black American in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, 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 we are not satisfied. We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like the waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, what is brilliant about it is that he explains, and then it goes into the famous part that everybody likes, right? Then it goes into the famous part. It is what it is. What he was saying was that all the white people need to be aware that if they can treat black people like this, the federal government will become so strong, so capable, that it will begin to create a prejudice against those white people that were in power. It will impoverish them. It will treat them poorly with the police brutality. It will go ahead and enslave them to a future of always having to pay the system, which is where we're at. You think COVID didn't deliver that? I mean, maybe it wasn't intended to, but that's where we're at. The middle class, white middle class, the thing upholding the nation, right? All those people working their days away, can't even afford to have kids anymore. All those people. Credit cards are sky high. No more savings. All used up. It's really interesting how on point Martin Luther King was and how he saw what it was going to look like back then. It's really interesting that we didn't get it and we let people lead us to poverty. It's interesting. You know, they did a study on people who make $150,000 as a household. They're living paycheck to paycheck now, $150,000. And I'm sitting back thinking, shit, you should see what these SSDI people are making, what the retired people are making, what the SSI people are getting. They're on a thread. It's hand to mouth every single month. They're counting the days until they get the check. It's an interesting thing that has happened. All right, the things that they're using as metrics. Potential barriers that underserved communities and individuals may face to enrollment in and access to benefits and services in federal government programs. It literally took until Martin O'Malley to put the SSI application online. They promised me that 10 plus years ago that they were going to do that. I remember the specific manager at the field office, Orlando field office, that told me that they were going to go ahead and do it that year. It was actually probably, it was right around. So remember, September 27th, the law firm becomes 11. So it was just 10 years ago plus, right? So we're in that, it was just around 10 years ago. B, potential barriers that underserved communities and individuals may face in taking advantage of agency procurement and contracting opportunities, right? That's where basically if the government wants to hire a group to go ahead and do construction, build a new whatever, they're going to hire individuals that are not, underserved communities. So like the white companies that do buildings of stuff, construction companies that are white, they're not going to hire them. They're going to hire other companies, right? Underserved community companies. C, whether new policies, regulations, or guidance documents may be necessary to advance equity in agency actions and programs. Yeah, they absolutely need to do that. They got to review the policy programs to see where they should improve them, where there is potential bias, stuff like that. D, the operational status and level of institutional resources available to offices or divisions within agencies that are responsible for advancing civil rights or whose mandate specifically includes serving underrepresented or disadvantaged communities. All right. They're not terrible things. They're not bad things. They're good ideas. Get the committee together, figure it out, deliver reports, go forward. But it is going to prejudice against that white middle class who can't afford anymore to have less than they already have, because now they're the poorest they've ever been. What will come from this, unfortunately, is hatred. Hatred from a middle class that can't afford what it should be able to afford because, let's just call it like it is, government hasn't been managed properly. is what it is, right? Fuel management, farming management, basic things that make things available, management of international funds, reserve currency, tariffs, not so great managed, right? Trump had issues too. Trump bent a knee quite a bit. I'm not just picking on Biden here. Trump bent a knee quite a bit to the Democrats. You may remember a lot of brouhaha about Hillary, and nothing happened to her. Of course, the Democrats then turned around and they got on him. They're riding him like a dog. So the bottom line is, to be fair, right, across the spectrum here, the country isn't doing so great. I unfortunately foresee this creating a lot of racism, unfortunately. But I also see it ultimately being good once everybody gets to kick it around a little. They kick the ball of this diversity, equity, inclusion, where everybody gets a voice, people get to talk about it, people get to raise their voice about it, people get to be heard on it. I think it's good because we're going further into unmapped territory, and we're letting people really beat the hell out of that topic and say, what do we want? What do we not want? I think in that reality, it's a good thing. Now, let's come to the very end of this because it's a lot of like how you're going to do stuff, how it's going to come together, etc. Here are the general provisions that they put with all these things because these are important because they're always like a way out for the president when they create one of these executive orders. General provisions. So Biden's first day in office. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect. So nothing is going to make or hurt or restrict the following: the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or head thereof, meaning in the future, nothing he put in here is going to restrict his ability to make future executive orders because he wants to protect his presidential power. Number two, the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, and legislative proposals. He's saying nothing in here is going to limit them. They can still do whatever they want to do. They want to do that stuff, give us a mini report, not really put time into it. They can still do that. They want to spend a hell of a lot of money and have a lot of time on it. They can still do that. B, this order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. So basically, if it's ruled in part not doable, unconstitutional, then the rest of it will continue. C, independent agencies are strongly encouraged to comply with the provisions of this order. Kind of a weird thing. I mean, you're the president. When you demand it, the agency's got to do it. The heads of the agencies report directly to you for the most part, and especially the big ones. They're part of your cabinet. Final one, and this is the kicker. Right? This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. Signed, January 20th, 2021, the White House, Joseph R. Biden Jr. So basically, the final provision ruins the entire thing, and they put it in every executive order. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit or substantive, procedural, enforceable at law. Basically, you don't have a right to sue the government if they don't make this happen. You don't have the right to sue the government for civil rights violations as a result of them trying to do this stuff. You can't hold your government liable is basically what that final, and I'll read it. So just in your head, can I hold the government liable? Can I sue them? This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. So basically, this executive order and everyone that's really created has a provision that does not allow you to enforce it as an American. So he's just like, I have these great ideas. I got all this stuff I want to do. I want to help all these people, but you can't hold me to it. That's the reality. All right. I know that this was an interesting video. We talked about some really, really difficult truths about, racism in this country, truth about, how many celebrities there are, what those celebrities are doing for their people, their culture, their options, who they get along with, who they live around, who they don't live around. We talked about why the government created Social Security, disability benefits, and supplemental security income. Not a popular idea, not an idea that's promoted by people. The ironic thing is, I talk about things That should make me pretty unpopular, but yet I'm the most viewed and subscribed to disability attorney because we talk about stuff like this and we open the communication platform to understand why these things actually exist. And then people get pissed, but a lot of them get really happy because when they get it, they know it, they understand it. Then everything makes more sense going down the line. I told a person the other day, when I was at the homeless office, the reason disability benefits exist is because they're trying to keep them away from the working class so that the working class can go make the government more money in taxes. He was very upset about that. I did not think that I should bring that up during this video, but you know what? We should just, it should be out there. It should be out there. You know what I mean? All right. I'll catch you guys later. Please remember to like and subscribe. Please remember to go ahead and leave some stars. And I will catch you a little bit later. If you want to hire me to go ahead and look at something specific, there's the 1 hour contract below where we put you as a 1 hour on the hearing calendar. I will catch you a little bit later. And please remember to take care of yourself. We are in a special season right now called the presidential voting season. Also, if you did not receive a package from the firm, like, an actual, document form package, like we mailed something to you and you didn't get it, immediately call me after 5 days. If you didn't get it within 5 days, it's probably lost. As we get closer to the election, not saying anything political, this could be from the left, could be from the right. But as we get closer to election, a lot of things with USPS don't happen the way they're supposed to. It just is the way it is. I accept it. Happened last election. It is what it is. So if you didn't get something from us within 5 days, it is crucial. It is crucial to go ahead and just give me a call and I'll send you another one. We'll put tracking on it, but then call me back once I have the tracking and just watch it as it goes through the delivery process to you. All right. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have an absolutely wonderful night. And I really do appreciate everybody just being open, mentally open with this, because it's going to get us to a better place. It's going to get us to the point where we can actually sue the government. And that's crucial. Imagine having the ability to sue the government about reducing your cost of living adjustment increases so that you get you're supposed to be getting $500 more per month, everybody across the board. And we don't because of the cost of living adjustment math that they've screwed everybody over with. Imagine if you had $500 more per month, it would work. The thing would work better. Wouldn't be great, but it would work better. I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful day, and we'll go from there. And I will catch you tomorrow. Keep in mind, I'm working tomorrow, and it's a Tuesday, day after a holiday, so I'm going to be slam-packed. So if you call right at 9, there's probably over 40, 50 calls from people who called in at 8, even though we only open at 9. I'll catch you a little bit later, and we'll go from there. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. And thank you. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.